Yo guys, Seth Gross on the pod. This is probably one of my favorite episodes. Some of you may relate to a story. It's super inspirational and we dive into other things as well. And once again, this video is brought to you by the Dopaminio bands.
I'm getting a nice cool down with these bad boys after a hard practice. Let's get into the pod. Woo!
And we started digging around in people's cars, taking stuff from it. Handful of felony charges, a handful of misdemeanors, and I was in a jail cell with 30 other dudes, and I couldn't really figure out anything to do. He ended up attacking me pretty quick. Was Joey McKenna. Like, it looked like their legs are swollen and just struggling. I literally shut down, was like tapping my feet, and like I couldn't even think straight. And he's telling us he's about to tech the #1 guy in the country, and we're like, dude, stop. That's where we're like, dang, this dude's for real. Like he's not just all talk. Like, this dude can wrestle.
Welcome back to the Clash of Combat podcast. Today we are joined with none other than Seth Gross. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Been a pretty good day. And not too much going on, but excited to be here with you guys and doing this. So
yeah, no, I'm excited. First up, I got to show this. So me, Crosby, right here. We got one more teammate on our high school team. When he transferred to Wisconsin, we got this shirt. You probably remember this.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. That's an original right there. That is awesome. That's got to be what, 3 years ago?
Yeah, definitely. It's got to be pretty old, but I thought I'd bring in just a good little momentum. But
that's awesome. Yeah, I remember right when I got here, I jumped on. We did like an online podcast.
Okay.
Right when I got to Wisconsin. So cool to be here now doing another one. So.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Well, the reason that I ended up buying that shirt is one reason, and it's because when you wrestled Wisconsin versus Penn State, when you spladled RBY, that was the single funniest and best match I've ever watched.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to ask, what was going through your head when you're like, oh my gosh, I'm spladling top 5 guy in the nation right now?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I hit that split a lot. I love it, and to hit it so I've hit it in a few big matches. The first big match I ever hit it, I actually hit it on Bryce Meredith in the Big 12 semifinals. So when it's there, it's there. You just gotta go for it, and it presented itself in that match. And I was like, man, I gotta go for it. It's there, and it ended up working out, getting some back points there. But yeah, it was pretty cool looking back on it and to see his success, because he was really good. Don't get me wrong, but he hadn't had a huge level of success at the college level yet. He was a freshman or sophomore, something like that, and then to see what he went on to do after that, 2-time national champ, 3-time finalist. So it's pretty cool looking back, being able to say, I spladled that guy. But sure. Yeah, it was cool.
I'm usually the guy getting spladled, so I couldn't relate to the offensive side of that one. But no, I really want to get to know the full Seth Gross story. So for you yourself right now, in one sentence, how would you describe Seth Gross?
In one sentence, man, you put the pressure on there. That's something I would have thought about all day long. But I'd just say somebody that's creative. Are we talking just wrestling or Seth Gross in general?
Seth Gross in general. As a human.
As a human. I would say I'm a pretty fun, pretty laid-back guy that is very, very competitive in everything I do. And faith is very important to me. And, it's kind of a big thing. That's very competitive, laid-back, but competitive when it's time to do something, whether it's playing spike ball in the room, whether it's dodgeball, whether it's wrestling. I'm pretty competitive in every area of my life, and fun. I said wife, but yeah, me and her get competitive in just about everything. We wake up every morning. Actually, it's pretty funny. We've been doing it for probably 6-7 months now, but we wake up every morning at 5:30 a.m. and we play cards against each other, and
what?
it gets heated. All right, when I'm ready, if she beats me and I'm ready to head to work, it'll be all right, I'll see you later, and slam the door. But no, it's fun. Like I said, I think that's a big part of me is the competitive nature, and so that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, I like that. That's crazy. You get up at 5:30, play cards. You think it might be get a nice hard live in or something. You go right to cards.
Oh yeah, we go hard at the cards though. We play a game. It's called 500 Rummy. I don't know if you guys played that one, but yeah, we play that one every morning, and yeah, we got a little tradition there going. But I will say that she probably, maybe she'd admit it, but I probably win 90% of the time.
90.
So.
All right, respect.
Yeah.
Who's your go-to spike ball partner?
Back when we played a lot, we kind of moved more towards, we actually play, I don't even know what you call this game. We play a new game where you throw the ball up and you got to like volley it 3 times. Then when you catch it, you could throw it at somebody and you get like 3 lives. And once you're out. But when we played spike ball, I played with Reader a lot. So he's a pretty good spike ball player. So we would beat up on everybody.
We've heard, so in our last podcast with our head coach, Nick, we were talking, and he was saying that Reader is one of the most competitive guys that you'll see. Like, if there was a tournament between all like the coaches, that Reader would be the guy to win that.
Oh yeah, that's why you want him on your team. Yeah. That's why you want him on your team. Yeah, he gets competitive, and he gets competitive, like you said, in everything he does. But like wrestling, spike ball, things like that, like he straight zones out and goes 8 million miles per hour. Like once he's going, there's no stopping him. So he's a guy. He gets rolling. It's game on. But like I said, that's why I was smart and brought him on my side, and we go kick everybody else's butt. But yeah, he gets competitive, man. He's another guy that definitely has that competitive nature in everything he does.
That's fair. Yeah. Before here, you were talking about, in high school, you're on the same team as, Mark Hall and Gable Steveson. So how was your whole high school experience in regards to that?
It was cool, man. It was cool, and it's cool because Apple Valley had a time period where we had a really good teams, but not a lot of guys went on and did well in college. So it's really cool just being where I am now, seeing like 3 guys that were on the same team, winning national titles, fighting to make world teams, and it's cool. I just get to see them, when we're on the road, and I get to chat with them. But it's cool, seeing that we all came from the same place, the same team, that same room, and that Apple Valley did a good job of developing. We had a lot of guys go D1 out of our team, and then us 3 did pretty well once we got to Division I. So it's cool looking back, and they were amazing guys. Gable was pretty young when I was there. Sure. He's an 8th grader. But me and Mark were really close. He would stay in the night at my house all the time growing up in high school, and yeah, we would get competitive in actually Yu-Gi-Oh! It was what we played back in the day. Sure. We would play a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Video games, things like that. But yeah, I was really got to hang out with Mark a lot back in high school. So
that's cool.
So even with Gable in 8th grade, he's practicing with your team every day, right?
Yep. Yeah. So Minnesota, you can wrestle when you're a 7th, 8th grader. So I'm pretty sure he got 2nd as an 8th grader. I could be wrong. He could have. Yeah, I think 2nd as an 8th grader. But yeah, you can wrestle 7th and 8th grade. So he was in there all the varsity practices as a 7th grader, and yeah, he was the same. I mean, obviously he's probably changed a ton, but he had that same confidence back then. Even before he was where he is today, he had that confidence, and it's cool to see that he never gave up on that confidence. I remember he came in as with that 8th grade year. It was the first year he started, and I remember we were going, I want to say it was the Christmas tournament. He was wrestling Lance Bennick, who was #1 kid in the country at the time, and this is Gable. Like, to us, he's just a little Gable, and he was pretty chunky at the time.
Still heavyweight?
He was probably 80 to 90, 95, somewhere in there. And so we've seen him in the room, and he does all right, but our older guys beat up on him, and he's telling us he's about to tech the #1 guy in the country, and we're like, dude, stop. And then like he's making bets with people left and right, and we're like, dude, stop. And he goes out there, he ends up, he lost a really close, I want to say, overtime match, but that's where we're like, dang, this dude's for real. Like, he's not just all talk. Like, this dude can wrestle. And he, obviously he went out from there to start dominating everybody in the country, and then he goes on to the Division I level, Olympic level, and does his thing. But he has always had that confidence, and I think that's a huge part of who he is and how he got to where he is. So
that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Huh. It's kind of funny. A funny story about him when he was in high school. So we're working for this guy over the weekend at the Wisconsin Freestyle State, and his dad is the one that Cleaver is the one that's like running it through us. And his son wrestled Gable in the Cheesehead finals.
Okay.
And Gable tech-falled him, and his only point scored, Cleaver's only point scored, was when Gable like just absolutely like slapped him like a penalty point.
Okay, at least he got a point. Not a lot of people do that. That's funny.
Oh man,
that's funny.
I'm gonna kind of switch gears here. And so when you first went to college, what did you look for at Iowa that made you want to decide to go there?
Man, there was a lot of things, right? I checked out 3, 4, or 5 different places, and the thing that I'd say stood out to me at Iowa was definitely just how many partners and the intensity, and the brands were around my size, and so you had Tony Ramos, you had Corey Clark, you had Thomas Gilman, you had Brent Metcalf, you had both the Brands brothers. It goes on and on and on, and so it was like, I went on a visit and I got to watch practice. I'm seeing these guys just battle it out, and I was like, man, that is something I want to be a part of. Like, I was ready to throw my shoes right then and there, and like get beat up on that day. But that was a huge part of it for me, was those partners and the intensity that was going on in that room, because that was kind of similar to Apple Valley. Like, it was a tough room. Like, even as a 8th grade freshman, for me, I was getting absolutely destroyed in the room on a daily basis. So it was like, man, I got to fight my way up the food chain. And I felt that same kind of vibe and energy when I went on that visit to Iowa. So I think I was just attracted to that. So that was kind of the big part in the deciding factor. Looking back, it was probably, it was a good and bad thing, but I think I didn't look at many other factors. It was just straight wrestling, and that was the only thing I cared about. And so it's like, great partners, great intensity. I didn't really look at, what's life outside of the wrestling scene look like for me, and where can I plug in different areas of my life. So I'd say that's the only thing that maybe I should have slowed down and see, hey, there is other things besides wrestling when you're choosing a college. And so, but that was the big deciding thing for me going to Iowa.
Were you ever thinking about more on the academic side, like, what am I going to do after wrestling? Like, was it always just like the path was to be a coach and kind of go through that path?
Yeah, I don't even know when I really decided I wanted to be a coach, but the opportunity presented itself, and I've absolutely loved doing that. But yeah, going in, it was the academic side definitely mattered to me, just because my parents were big on that. I mean, you look now, my sister's a doctor, my brother's going to PT school now, my sister's computer science, right? They all got 4.0s, like, all at college. So I'm kind of the runt to the litter when it comes to academics.
Sure.
But it was always something they did prioritize. I probably didn't personally, but they pushed it, so I did at least think about it a little bit, and I knew that Iowa was at least decent academically, so it checked the box for my parents too. And
yeah. So one thing on your Instagram, of course, God's Wrestlers, your username, and I kind of do want to really hear from your perspective about that whole situation and, your pin post on Instagram to that whole story. Yeah. Could you dive into that?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I get to Iowa my freshman year, and just to kind of preface it, just my family growing up, I was very, very, very strong in my faith. I guess I wouldn't necessarily say that it was something that I chose to do for myself. I just grew up around it. My parents were bringing us to church, bringing me to Bible studies, all that. So I was just involved with it. And so naturally, right, that was just part of my life. And I get to Iowa, and no longer did I have my parents kind of pushing this stuff on me. And so as soon as I got there, early on, I did a little bit of FCA type stuff, or Athletes in Action and stuff. And as the training got hard and you get in that college lifestyle, I kind of started kicking that stuff to the side, and kind of my faith kind of fell to the back burner, and wasn't even anything I thought about, right? I didn't have my parents pushing me to do that anymore, and so it was kind of something that slid big time. And with that being said, wrestling was my idol at the time. Like, it was everything to me. All I cared about, I was obsessed with it. I wanted to be a national champ, and that's the only thing that mattered. Like, I knew to do that, I had to do good in school, I had to make good decisions. So I get to Iowa, and I had a fairly good redshirt year. I think I was 14-3 or something, and I lost to my teammate. I lost to Dean Heil, who won nationals that year. So I lost to good guys, but pretty good redshirt freshman year. And then towards the end of the year, I ended up getting injured, and I hadn't really been injured much in my career at all, so I never felt like what it's like to not have wrestling in my life. And so when that happened, I didn't know what to do with myself. It was kind of like I came to Iowa to wrestle, and now that I can't wrestle, now I'm coming in the room and jumping on the bike for 45 minutes and doing rehab, and mentally that was tough on me. It was just, I don't know. It was, I guess, since I hadn't been injured, it was just something really hard for me to deal with, and I wasn't in a good place mentally, and I started kind of turning to making some poor decisions, going out to, and it's kind of crazy. I didn't drink at all that whole first year, because I was so obsessed with the wrestling and being around that, being the best wrestler I could be, and I knew that to be the best wrestler, drinking wasn't conducive to winning. And as soon as I got injured, I started hanging around the party scene. I didn't drink at first, and then, crazy enough, the very first night I drank when I was at Iowa was the night that I got in trouble. And But like I said, I started surrounding myself with that, and sooner or later you kind of fall down that hole a little bit. And so one night, a bunch of the wrestlers, this was like right as season ended. Actually, I think the starters had just left for nationals, so the red shirts and just some guys that weren't wrestling were out making some poor decisions. And yeah, we ended up a few of the guys after the party. We were just getting ready to leave and head home, and I think we were in Cedar Rapids at somebody's house. It's like 40 minutes. And yeah, before whatever reason, we started digging around in people's cars, taking stuff from it, and yeah, we ended up. I mean, it was like I want to say it was like 9 or 10 p.m. So it was like, what do you guys? I mean, not that we were planning this huge thing out, but it's like, what are you doing, taking things from people's car at 9 p.m. Because obviously somebody saw us doing it, called the cops, they pulled up while we were doing it, and a few of us ended up in jail that night, and. Yeah, ended up with some pretty severe charges. Actually, they brought us in for questioning, and none of us would say anything, and so we made it pretty hard on ourselves. They got pretty upset that we didn't say anything, so they brought every possible charge they could at the time, and so we had a handful of felony charges, a handful of misdemeanors, but quite a bit of charges. So it was a tough time, and yeah, it was pretty. I mean, I'm pretty far removed from it, but I can still remember what it felt like. Like, it was actually St. Patrick's Day, and I was in a jail cell with 30 other dudes. Like, it was a crazy.
That's like something you see from a movie.
Yeah, no, and like, I remember how I felt. It was like scary, but looking back, it's like, geez. But yeah, there was 30 dudes in there. I remember I was in there, and they toss you a blanket that like maybe covers one leg, and then they like bring out like cafeteria type food in the middle like later in the night. I remember I was so just sick to my stomach, like, what did I do that, like, I couldn't eat my food? And I remember some huge, massive guy all tatted up, like, looked over, you gonna eat that? I slid it over, like, you got it. But yeah, it was pretty crazy. And actually, the even harder part for me, being out of state, they only let you have in-state phone calls. Wow. So, like, I grabbed the phone, and I don't know anybody in state that I'm even going to call. My entire family, my friends, everybody's in Minnesota. Like, I don't know what to do. So fortunately for me, not fortunate for him, but obviously another guy on the team was in there with me, and so he was able to contact his dad, and we ended up, I want to say, being in there for close to 30 hours. There were so many people in there that it wasn't like a quick booking process. It was a long time in there, and then finally we got out of there. And then the hard part, telling my family, telling my coaches what we'd done, and yeah, so.
Because your life changes there, and in that post I was talking about, and then you go back, you gain 40 pounds, you start working at Target then. At this point where you're at now, if you could go back and you see yourself working at Target, what would you say? Because you went on and you really like made that step as like, whoa, like I'm not who I want to be, and then you kind of transform that on a big step. So what would you say to yourself there?
And that's hard because, man, I don't know. I probably overthink the question here, but I'm like, man, if I would have told myself, maybe it would have messed up my whole path, and I'd never get to where I am today. But it would just be, trusting God's plan for your life, because that was the one big thing that did come out of it all. Is I really fell back on my faith in that time. At first, it was a lot like, why God? Like, I made the right, I wasn't drinking, I wasn't doing this, and now I'm the one, and I started pointing fingers like, that guy went out every night, this guy did that, and I'm the one that's, in trouble. So at first it was a why God thing, and then, as things kind of settled down and came a little bit more removed, it was like, almost God pulling me away, saying, hey, you pushed me to the back burner, right? You put wrestling up here as your idol, and I didn't like that. And I tried other ways to get you to focus on me, but you didn't, and so that's what had to be done. And so that's kind of how I think of it. God just kind of pulled me back and said, hey, there's more important things than wrestling. There's more bigger things in your life, and I need you to realize that I'm always number one. And so that was a big thing that came out of it all. And so I guess if I saw myself, it would just be trusting God's plan and just focus on Him.
I like that. That's cool.
So,
how long was it between when you left Iowa, when you finally made your decision to go to South Dakota State?
So I left Iowa, so I got in trouble in March, and I was driving back and forth from Iowa to Minnesota after that, but I had to finish up school, so I was in Iowa until probably June.
Okay.
Finishing school, but I wasn't wrestling, doing anything. So I didn't wrestle for six plus months, and then I want to say it was July/August time where I finally made the decision that I was gonna wrestle, and then started reaching out to places, and ended up finding South Dakota State. So it was probably August when I got there and started.
How was your
working all
stamina?
that. Oh, terrible. So I got another funny story. So it was really bad, and Bono had the guys out in South Dakota running quite a bit in the off season, and it was a pretty short run. Like, we do practice, and it was called the Perkins run. We just run to Perkins, run back, and it was probably a mile there, a mile back. And I had a tough practice. I'm already out of shape. I'm dying, barely getting through the practice. And at the end, he's like, "All right, guys, go do your Perkins run." And so we start running, and like I said, I'm 40, 170. I'm 40 pounds bigger than I am right now. And I start running. I'm like, I cannot down. I'm gonna throw up. I can't do this. I'm not gonna make it. So right when you start, like literally like 100 steps into the run, there's like this big area of trees. Okay, so and somebody tagged along with me that was struggling too, but we got the smart idea that, hey, we'll just hide in the trees. When they come back around, we're gonna jump out, and nobody will ever know. So we jump in the trees, and we're sitting there waiting because we were in the back to start. We're sitting there waiting, and then I don't know what I was thinking. Like, I wasn't always the smartest, but I decided to jump out in like second place at the end, like and just book it in like right at the end, and that didn't sit too well with the other guys. I think if I would have waited and came in last or something, I probably would have got away with it. But I jumped out, and granted, this is like my first or second week there too. So these guys are like, "What? Who is this freaking chubby dude jumping out of the? What? Freaking go do the run!" And then they had one of the volunteer coaches at the time run the whole way with me to make sure I did the whole thing. And so that was one of my first couple weeks at South Dakota State. But
I kind of wanted to talk more about your relationship with like Bono. So like, what was it about him that made you follow him to Wisconsin?
So the big thing, right, obviously he was the guy that gave me a second chance, but a big thing that I liked when I went to South Dakota State to visit, after I got in trouble, all this, is, he kind of looked me in the eye and he said, "Hey, you need to tell me exactly what you did, and be honest with me, and no bull crap. Like, just tell me what you did, and then we'll figure it out from there." And I looked him in the eye, and I have a pending court case going on. I probably shouldn't be discussing details, but I told him exactly every little detail, and he's like, "I believe you. This is the last time we're ever going to talk about this. Right? It's done. If you want to come wrestle here, I've talked to our athletic director. Right? We figured that we can get you in here. You're going to be able to wrestle if you come to school here. But this is the only time we're ever going to talk about this, right? It's in the past. It's over with, and I don't think you're going to do something like that again." And that meant a lot to me. And the one thing he did say is like, it's one strike here. You show up to one practice late, you do one thing, you miss one class, you're gone. And to me, him just saying, once you tell me, we're past it. And so that was important to me, and that really just made me want to go there and be a part of his team. And then, we got really close over the years. And so he was a guy that was there when I was at my lowest point, was willing to give me a second chance, and didn't give up on me. Even I had a really bad freshman year at South Dakota State, the first half of the year, and he stuck with me and helped me get to where I am today. So,
you gonna do any 100-mile runs with Bono in the future?
Maybe. I'm gonna wait till I'm done competing to do that, because man, I think those guys are still hurting to this day from that 100-mile race. Oh yeah, they're crazy. I don't think they really knew what it was gonna be like, and like didn't really know how to prepare. They just went and did it. Mm-hmm. They were running like 80 miles, and like they go do a 30-mile, like to train for this, they were doing 30-mile runs, marathons, and it's like, this cannot be good on your body. No. Like this can, and so I think that they're still feeling it to this day. So I'm gonna wait till after I'm done competing if I'm ever gonna do a 100-miler. But they did a 50-er after that too, and they crushed that one easy. So, but 100 miles, man, it's no joke.
Dude, I almost wouldn't even want to train for it. Just do it. Like
that's what I said.
No way my training is gonna be over a marathon.
That's what I said. I was like, if I was I would break in the training and then not be able to do that. I would just go straight out there and try to mentally get it done, I think. It would not, yeah. I got to, my wedding was actually the night before, and they were at my wedding the night before, and then they got up early that next morning to go do the race. But obviously spending some time with the wife after the wedding, so I didn't get to be their support until right at the end. We drove up at like, and I remember I was texting Bono's wife. I was like, hey, like, let me know when they're close. And she was giving me updates, and I was like, let me know when they're, like, you know, it's like a 40-minute drive. I was like, let me know when they're 3 miles out so I can make sure I'm there on time. And she didn't text me. And, you know, I'm starting to look up, and I see that they're, like, a mile away. And I was like, hey, are they getting close? She's like, they're a mile away. I was like, you're supposed to tell me. Like, I'm going to miss it. Now I'm freaking out. She's like, you're good. They're going slow, like capital SLOW. And so I drive down there, and by the time I drove 40 minutes, they'd probably gone only like half a mile further. So they still had like half a mile to go. And when I finally saw them, she was right. They were going slow, like it looked like their legs are swollen and just struggling. But they got it done. And it was funny. So another funny story about that. I remember these guys are tough, man. The next day, right, neither of them can barely walk. They're like peeing blood and struggling, and they end up going to visit a kid, like do a visit at somebody's house, and like Reader's in crutches and Bono's like hobbling in, and they go visit a kid, and so they didn't slow down. They were a little crippled for a while, but they kept rolling right after it.
Wait, that was a recruit?
Yeah.
Did he commit?
Shoot, I don't remember who it was, but I want to say it's one of our guys now.
Okay.
I'd have to check with them, but
That'd be an interesting story.
Yep. What's wrong? Why is this guy in crutches right now?
Was it just Bono and Reader that did that?
So actually, my teammate from South Dakota State, Henry Pohlmeyer. I don't know if you guys know that name, but he was my training partner all throughout. That's my time at South Dakota State. But he came out to Wisconsin and trained in the regional training center, the RTC, for a while, and he did the race with them as well. And he crushed it. Like I think he might have done it in like 26 hours or something.
Holy crap!
So he crushed it, and he's a wild man. If you ever get to know him, he's an absolute wild man. And I guess he just straight out went out there and did it. Like, he didn't have a cell phone, he didn't have music, he didn't have nothing, and this dude just put his head down and hammered out 100 miles.
Holy crap!
You have to be eating.
He stopped here and there, but like, and yeah, like I said, he's an interesting one. Like, he doesn't sweat very much either, and like, this dude probably stopped a couple times throughout the race. But Bono and Reader always tell the story because Henry was way ahead of them, and like, they end up, because you go down, back, down. Yeah, down, back, down. So it's like 33 miles each way, and like, they see Henry, and there's no one within like 10 miles, and he's just looking straight up in the pitch dark, just running away, and like, he goes past him, and he doesn't even notice them, and they're like, Henry, and he's like pops up like, oh, hey guys, and like, and then he went back to doing his thing. But.
So would you say if you take those stops, you'd still give him the mile completion,
Oh
right?
my
If he still
gosh.
stops, right? Like, and he does it that day.
What's that?
Like, because you said he did the 100 miles.
Don't
listen
but
to this
he
dude.
made a couple stops, right?
Oh yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
listen to this dude.
What's wrong with stopping?
No,
That's
no, no.
what- okay.
He ran a marathon last summer, and he stopped to get like coffee in the morning. Stopped for food. But
Hey,
most
it
people
It
could
was
run a
just
marathon.
coffee. It was just
Hey, yeah. If you finish within the time frame, I think you're good to go.
What was the
There
time?
was an unlimited time for
was a 20
I had to do it.
In a
It
day.
was just the first one.
How long was the break?
Okay, they actually took really long, and there was no one in the drive-thru either. It was McDonald's, and usually they're fast
Yeah.
because it was at this point where I was going to McDonald's for coffee every day
Yeah.
because I was obsessed with like this YouTuber who would have it every day and like their challenge. He tried to move a penny across America. I like woke up every day watching it, so I'm like, dude, I have to go get coffee, and so
Yeah.
it became part of that challenge. But
Oh, I love it. Yeah, that's funny. But yeah, they stopped. They got to like, I guess I didn't get to see any of the stops, but I guess like every stop's like a party, like music, pizza, like people are like. They were telling me like people are literally taking shots at the rest stops. Like it's like crazy. Like it's a party at the stops, and like
you think Goggins is taking shots at the base?
he might be. I don't know. That dude's a wild man. He just gets it done.
I can't. You would like puke that up. I feel like
Yeah.
right away.
That's what yeah. I don't know. Like it's like your body's burning so many calories that like whatever you put in's just got to be like running through your
Yeah.
system. Like.
Yeah.
You could eat a friggin' whole pizza and you just burn that off in the next 2
Yeah.
hours of running. So It's crazy. Yeah, maybe one day I'll experience it. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you run it all like for training, like outside of like scheduled runs?
Yeah, so I actually used to run a lot in my training. I've kind of switched up over the past year and a half. I do more of like shorter runs now, high intensity, and then probably once or twice a week I'll do longer, slow runs, kind of zone 2 training, but a little bit of running now. A lot more probably 2 years ago. I was running a lot, like 15 miles a week at least. So.
Oh, nice. I just want to know, who is the best person you have wrestled?
The best person
Practice
I've wrestled.
or a match?
Ooh. Man, let's start with a person I've wrestled in a match.
Are we talking based on just accomplishments,
I
or
don't
like
know, like just
who he feels
just
is?
feel to you, like you're wrestling them, like, oh my, like this dude is so good, like when you're wrestling him.
Oh, man, that is a great question. I'd say the guy that beat me up the most and I couldn't really figure out anything to do, he ended up attacking me pretty quick, was Joey McKenna.
Yeah.
So that was a match that I wrestled. It was like one of those flow cards, but I went out there, and that dude, like, I've practiced with him, and I was like, man, I think I can wrestle with this guy. And I went out there, and this dude was strong. Like he shot in. I thought I was in a pretty good position to hit a head pinch, and I got my knees under, and this dude straight picked me up and forward me, and I was like, man, this guy's pretty good.
He's gotta be bigger than you though.
Yeah, so I was a 61 kilo guy. And we ended up wrestling, I think, at 66 kilos, 67 kilos,
Jesus.
somewhere in there. I was bigger at the time though. I had wrestled 65, like the build, or that was before that. But I mean, I probably weighed in around my walking around weight, where he was probably coming down a little bit. So he was definitely a little bigger and stronger than I was. But that was one match that I like walked off, and I was like, man, I don't even know what I just got to get stronger if I want to wrestle this dude again.
What do you think about those flow cards, personally?
I think they were cool, especially, where we were at the time. I think it'd be cool if they kept doing them, just because you saw a lot of really cool matches that aren't going to happen. Like especially the different weight classes, like me going up and wrestling him probably wouldn't happen. David Taylor, Jordan Burroughs, you see these kind of crisscross matches where you can actually have guys wrestle guys that aren't maybe in their weight class, and so I thought that was really cool. It was just matches you might not see. And so right now it's like there's the U.S. Open, there's trials, Final X, things like that. But outside of that, none of these guys really wrestle much. So it's like it was cool because you saw Jordan Burroughs way more than you see in a typical year. You saw David Taylor a lot more. And so it's cool, I think, from that perspective to see those matchups and see those top guys compete a little more often.
Yeah. When we're talking with these guests, I know Gable said it, Becker said it last time, is that like why wrestling isn't more popular, and it's literally just because of story and how it, like, if it makes sense, like, you know what I mean, and especially for wrestling, like if you're seeing a guy wrestle once per year, like yes, it's cool when it happens, but why can't it be like a full year of hype, like you want to go watch like what he's doing and competing and
exactly.
I don't know. That's just something that we've been hearing.
No, and I agree, right? It's tough because I wrestle, like I said, it's like a two to 3 month time frame right after college where you actually have competitions, unless you're going out doing international stuff, traveling across the world, which, right, for me that gets tricky with being a coach too. And so, if there was more tournaments, here in the U.S., I would wrestle, every other weekend if I could, and I think a lot of guys would. But with that being said, wrestling's not at a point where like these guys are gonna, it's not worth their time, right? David Taylor's got a club. If he stays there, he's gonna make X amount of money. Why is he gonna go wrestle at this tournament where he's not, making any money? He's taking a time away from his family, and so it's a hard spot because it's like, yeah, that would be great, but these top guys, they're doing really well, and it's like they're not going to take time away from their family and that stuff just to, go wrestle at a tournament when there's, it doesn't get them anywhere. And so it's tricky, and, that's why I did think the Flow stuff was cool, because they had a reason, right? They're getting a pretty nice paycheck to go wrestle in this stuff, and so now they have a reason to show up and let it fly.
Would you ever think that wrestling will be more popular based on the more monetizing abilities? Because now, with the NIL, of course, that changes things. But I mean, when you look at like the senior level, and it's not like it's football where there's like a season and stuff like this.
And all right, I don't know. I think that's tricky. I think it'll take time. I think it's possible. I don't think it's going to be anytime real soon, unfortunately. But I think that if the right thing's built, and there's enough incentive, but I think there's a huge tier of like who was it I was talking to about was like we push guys away from wrestling that aren't like that number one guy, right? If you're not making world teams, like you see guys making comments like, why doesn't that guy retire? Or what is he even wrestling for? Where it's like there's a ton of guys that just love wrestling, and I think there's a very talented guys that love wrestling that might not be the very best guy that they'll go wrestle for free, right? They'll go wrestle for cheap. They'll go wrestle for $1,000 where. Right, we could target, there's a ton of guys that would do that I think you could start a league or some sort, right? It's hard when you got these top guys who want, 50, whatever it is, $1,000, right? That's hard to sustain when you're starting out, but if you target that, like stalemate leagues, I think he does a great job. That's kind of what I'm talking about. Like, he's got guys that just love wrestling, right? He's got these guys that they're going to come, they're going to scrap, they're going to have fun. And he's really got the entertainment side of it down. It's not all about having the very best guys wrestle every time, right? It's about making a story behind it, having guys that just want to go out there, scrap, and so I think something like that could grow. And I love what he does, so I think that there needs to be more of that. Not hey, this guy's third on the ladder, why is he even wrestling anymore?
No, that makes sense. I mean, like you said, that stalemates. It's almost like he's putting that WWE mix back on wrestling. And that's what. People care about the story. People care about like whoa, these guys got beef, and like I can't wait to see them wrestle. It doesn't matter if they're top 2 in the world. It doesn't matter if they're bottom 500. It's like if they got beef, it's like, oh, something's going down. I don't know. There's got to be something.
I agree, and like you said, that's what he does a good job of, and I think there could be more of that. And it's crazy in wrestling. Like, I'm not a big smack talker myself by any means, and like I hardly do it, but like people hate on any sort of. Carter Starachi, if he ever says anything, people are down his throat. People selly too much after a match. They're down people. So it's like, dude, at the end of the day, that's fun, and people are talking about it, and it brings a different side, and I think it'll bring more fans in if we have more of that. Like I said, it's probably not my thing, but I love it when people do it. Like, I'm watching, right? I'm turning it on every time to see what Carter says. I might not be the biggest fan in the world, but I know he's going to say something that's entertaining every time he does. And so I think that as a sport, right, we just need to embrace it, right? Embrace the future and embrace that things got to change a little bit if we want to take it to the next level.
That's a good point. I almost think it's like with those guys making those claims like Carter and stuff, I think every college athlete is like loves that, but I feel like the older generation's like, what are you doing? Like they're all like in their old times and kind of stuck. So
but they always they take it as disrespect, where it's like it's not. I guarantee outside the mat that he is a very respectful dude towards. I've talked. He's one of the most respectful guys I've met. It's like it's just part of being a showman. A little bit, and everybody has their own way of doing it. Like a guy like Nick Suriano. You never know what he's gonna say, but people are listening because he's a little different than your typical. Just throw out the answer that everybody wants to hear. And it's like those personalities, right? We need to embrace those different personalities, and that's the guys that you see that people want to watch, even, and then with that, that's the other aspect of wrestling that I think, I don't know how you fix it, but, one thing, since I'm not a big smack talker, is like every time I step on the mat, I want to make sure it's the most exciting match in the world, and I want to put 20, 30 points on the board and make it, something that anybody wants to tune into. I don't want to go out there and try to win, a 3-2 or 4-3 match that, we were just pushing each other and hand fighting the whole time, and so that's the way I kind of try to, use my skills to do that and make, put a fun product out there. But like I said, other guys, it's smack talking and getting, building that story around it.
I like that. I think that's one thing I could add is maybe not like of course, if I can squeak out a win, it's like, it's different, but having just go out there, don't like care, be like, I don't know. I don't want to get too in front of like the crowd and stuff like that, but there's like levels to where you want to go with that.
Absolutely.
I like that.
Absolutely. And I mean, you're a prime example of what, like, building a story around what you do. Like, that's why people watch, is because you take them to the, you know, to see what the everyday life is about, see what it takes to get there. And I think it inspires a lot of people.
Sure.
And it's something that they just want to see just because you're bringing them along for it. And right, you're very consistent. That's the thing that I really appreciate watching, you know, seeing your stuff out there is how consistent you've been. But I feel like some people dive into it and they don't see those results right away, and then not enough people are watching. You know, I think there's a lot of people, myself included, have done a couple vlogs here and there and done this. And it's just like, I didn't get the views I wanted.
Yeah.
And so, and you know, you see that time and time, but I mean, consistency really is a thing in every aspect of life. The more consistency you can be with something, the better off, you know, you're going to be in the long run.
Dude, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree. Consistency is the biggest thing, whether that be get better at wrestling, more mat time, you know, better, of course, better coaching, better partners, that'll do it. But same thing, social media, like post a lot of content every day. You got to show up, and that's a big part of it.
Can we talk a little bit on your Final X match last year?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you lost the first one 5-5.
Yo.
Like, how did you stay in there mentally, knowing that he only has to squeak out one more win, and you have to come back and win 2 straight?
Honestly, that 5-5 loss was actually like had me more fired up than anything. Like, just being there, knowing like, hey, I can do this. So it was more. I think that first match was a confidence booster, and at the end of the first match, I actually thought I was winning the match, and I didn't realize. So we had the exact same score, and I scored last. So I figured I won, but I forgot I'd given a caution up, and so I thought I won. So there's like 10 seconds left, and I stood there for like the first 3 or 4 seconds, and then I heard the coaches yelling like, "Dude, you're losing!" And I was like, "Oh shoot!"
See, okay, I just want to stop it here because in the Bo Bartlett match with Nick Lee, I thought Bo won like 100%, and it's like. Of course, maybe he would have tried to go.
Yeah,
that changes
exactly.
everything.
Yeah, but so that's the one tricky thing is that caution. You know, if I have,
the ref should say something.
But yeah, right. That's you know, you either got to be aware. I just didn't know that the caution vetoed last point. But now I know that for sure. But learn the hard way. But besides that, you know, it doesn't happen too much. But yeah, it's, you know, either looking over at the scoreboard, if they have it underlined, I think they underline who's winning, and I just didn't do that. But yeah, that was, I didn't know, and then 6-7 seconds left, I was like, oh crap, I gotta score then, and then didn't have time. But I walked off just knowing that I knew what adjustments I needed to make, and I was just super fired up. I kind of saw that you know, I don't want to speak for him, but I think he thought it was going to be easy. You know, I thought he texted me the year prior, and I think he thought, like, hey, I'm going to beat up on this guy. Yeah. And he walked, you know, kind of off that first match with his head down, a little exhausted, and I was ready to wrestle the second match the second I stepped off from that first match. So I think I had some confidence going into the second one, and then got that one done. And third one, you know, I was like, all right, time to go do this.
For sure.
I was listening to a previous podcast you were on, and you were saying how you think maybe, you know, 3 people in that whole arena thought that you could win that match.
Yep.
And like how cool it must have felt like for you to actually like, I did it.
Yep. And
was the feeling better after you won NCAAs or being on a world team?
I'd say being on a world team.
Really?
Just because for me the dream's always been Olympic champ, world champ, and so I guess that's just always been the bigger goal to me. I think the atmosphere was obviously unmatchable at NCAAs, but I felt like after college, you know, I had a tough patch. You know, it was a guy that attacked me a lot, you know, and I'd struggled with some different injuries and stuff. So to get back and make a world team and be able to represent the country, that was just meant a lot to me. And so, you know, the 3 people that, you know, were probably rooting for my coaches, and then my dad and his brother were there. Outside of that, I think it was every single one was probably a Cowboys fan out there at Okie State. So, but yeah, it was really cool, and very, very blessed to have been able to make that world team, and hopefully try to go do it again here in a few weeks. So,
How was so of course the U.S. Open, you know, didn't go as to your liking, and just walk us through that and your process and your plan into what's next.
Yeah, so I lost in the semifinals 5-4 to Austin DeSanto, and it was a good match. I mean, looking back at it, you know, I walked off knowing like I'm gonna get this guy next time, and I'll get the chance to wrestle again here in a couple weeks at the World Team Trials out in Colorado Springs. But you know, I always try to find especially during quick turnarounds, try to find the positives in my matches and stuff. And I went back, obviously broke down the film, and think there's certain areas I gotta make some adjustments in. But looking back at it, the 4 points he scored, one was off me trying to head pinch that wasn't there, and then the other one was I was kind of chasing him and overextended on a shot, and so he didn't really generate a ton of his own offense. It all kind of came off of my stuff, and so that's something that I can walk off the mat confident, knowing I fix a few things up that I'm gonna go turn around that result. But yeah, now I get to go try to do it the hard way, right? I got to battle through the world team trials, and then if I win that, go out to Final X and wrestle Vito. So, but yeah, that's the big thing. Like even going into Final X against Fakes last year, anytime I suffer a loss, it's like you got to figure out obviously there's probably a lot of bad if you lost, but you can take some positives from it too. Like even when I got teched by Fakes, it was like I got hit in the same thing 3 times off my own 2-on-1. So right, if I just don't grab a 2-on-1, there goes 8 points in that match, And so it's like there's always perspectives and different ways to look at things, and I try to be as positive as possible, breaking that stuff down.
Yeah. One thing I think that's really cool too is how you did that the gender reveal.
Oh yeah, that one went a little viral. That was.
So how fast are you gonna put your kid into wrestling, you think?
Oh, I know. I think he's moving around so much in my wife's belly. It's crazy. Like,
because it could be any day, right?
Yeah. So she's almost 31 weeks. So a month and a half, 2 months left. But it's coming quick. It's crazy how fast it's gotten here. But yeah. He'll probably find his way to a wrestling mat fairly soon. But yeah, we're fired up. Little boy on the way, and. Yeah, it's cool because, like I said, it was crazy. Like 2-3 weeks ago, barely moving. Now it's like this dude's freaking like punching and kicking, and you can feel it. So it's cool. I'm very excited for that part of my life. So. Are
you nervous at all?
Very, very. I don't say it too much, but yeah, I'm definitely nervous. It's like I know it's happening, but it's like I know until the baby's really here. Like I don't know what's how much life's really gonna change. It's like I think I'm prepared, and I think I'm gonna figure out when it gets here, but I know it's gonna change everything. So,
wow. Well, I'm looking forward to how that goes.
Yo.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about when Rana had an MMA fight.
Yo.
So you hear a lot about the wives' emotions coming in when their husbands fight.
Yo.
But you never hear about the husband when their wife fights.
Oh man, that was one of the the first round when she went out there for that fight. Like, I was like shaking and saying like. Couldn't even say anything. Luckily there was another coach. Like I literally shut down, was like tapping my feet, and like I couldn't even think straight, and so it was nerve-wracking. And then after she came out after that first round, and like she took some pretty brutal hits the first round, she's like, I'm okay, I'm gonna friggin' do this, and I think it was her first fight, so she was pretty surprised too, right? You spar all the time, you get hit in the face, but nothing's like getting hit during a real fight when somebody's really trying to do some damage. But yeah, that was one of the scariest like couple minutes. And then once I saw she's gonna be all right, it was like, all right, let's try to help her out here. And but yeah, it was fun, and she's hoping to get back into that stuff. But yeah, she loves it. So.
And she didn't take a gimme fight her first fight.
No, she wrestled a national champ wrestler who had almost a year of experience more than her, and she took. She only trained for 3-4 months. It took that fight.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah. So she jumped into it, and her thing was like, if I don't just do it, I'm never gonna do it. So she's like, I'm just gonna somebody asked her if she wanted to fight her, and she was like, all right, I'll do it. And so yeah, I think that girl's gone on to win her next 2 or 3 fights here, and has done really well. So. But yeah, it was cool. It was cool to see her here do that, because it's something I always have talked about too. Maybe do this, and she's just like, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'm just gonna go out there and yeah, she's one tough lady. So. Would you
now consider MMA?
Man, I don't know. I love jiu-jitsu. Like I love going in, and like when she was training hard, obviously with the baby she hasn't been there, but when she was training hard for getting ready for fights and stuff, I was in there doing jiu-jitsu probably 2-3 times a week, and I loved it. I love that side of it. Striking's not my favorite. Like, I don't know. I just don't like it. I don't like getting hit in the head. But Who knows? Who knows? I want to
Yeah.
definitely focus on this Olympic cycle, try to make this team, and then I never know. Who knows? Maybe I'll try it out, but I'm not against it. I enjoy it, and I enjoy watching it a lot. Like I watch all the UFC, Bellator, One Championship fights. But right now, probably not, but maybe in the future.
What was your reactions on the Henry Cejudo fight?
Man, I thought. I mean, it is what it's hard to say one way. I don't know what the judges were thinking. I think he won that last round, which one judge didn't give him, which kind of lost him the fight. But then he got some gift. I mean, I'd say gifted around by a couple of the judges, and so I think it was a close fight. And it was surprising how good Sterling's wrestling matched up with him, and Sterling did a good job. So I was impressed. I thought Henry was going to get him, but 3 years off.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, for 3 years off, going in there, taking a fight like that, and almost winning it, that was pretty sweet. I think at the end of the day, he's gonna find a way to be the champ again sooner or later. So.
Yeah. No, I agree. Last thing I kind of really want to touch base on is how you had your own wrestling shoe come out with Wrestle Boutique.
Yeah.
How was that process for you?
That was cool. It was really fun just having a say on what the shoe looks like, and working with him and making, put my logo on it, picking the colors and a little bit on the design stuff. But yeah, it was really cool, and it was good working with him, and yeah, I enjoyed it.
Sure. And now you're fully with ASICS. Is that correct?
Yeah,
So how was that?
ASICS now. Yeah, I love it. I love everything about it. It's been cool. I think I signed with them in January, February time maybe, but yeah, it's been great. They take care of me, and yeah, they deck me out. It's like I get a care package every single week, new shoes, new sweatshirt. But yeah, they got some really good quality stuff. And I've always worn their running shoes, and growing up, I was always an ASICS guy for wrestling shoes. So it was pretty cool to see that come full circle, where I actually get a chance to now, be an athlete of this brand. So it's pretty cool.
Any new Seth Gross ASICS shoes coming out?
Oh man, I think I gotta go win some big titles before they do that. They're pretty selective on the shoes. I know once if I can go win a world title or Olympic title, that they'll definitely be about it. But I got some work to do.
Sure.
But,
that's cool.
yeah.
You got anything?
I just got one more question. Your senior year, last year in Wisconsin, you're going for your second national championship. You're in a really tough weight class, and then COVID hits.
Yeah.
And what were your initial reaction to that?
Honestly, I mean, I was upset because I was prepared, and I think the thing that upset me is that I lost at the Big Ten championship, and that was my last tournament ever. But outside of that, I'd accomplished my biggest goal, which was winning a national title. My biggest goal in college. But outside of that, my goal's always been the Olympics. And at first, the national championship got canceled. The Olympic trials were a month away, and so I was just like, all right, whatever. I got to go focus on this now. There's no time to really worry about, what happened. So I just got right back into training, trying to get ready for the Olympics. Then that got postponed, pushed back a year, and it ended up being tough for me because I was kind of in betweener. I ended up cutting down to 57, so I held that weight down forever and ended up going 57 that next year at the trials. But it was, like I said, I probably felt more for the guys that never got on the podium, the guys that, got second and never got a chance to win a national title. I felt a lot for those guys, and there was a few guys that I was teammates with at Wisconsin that, they didn't get that chance. And so I was bummed for them. I was fortunate enough that I did accomplish what I set out to do in college, so I wasn't too hurt, and I was ready. I've always loved freestyle a little more, so I was excited to, go try to win an Olympic title, start doing this freestyle thing, and fortunately, through it all, I ended up getting a coaching job too. So, it wasn't, I feel a lot worse for the people that, never got to accomplish those goals.
For sure. Well, we before we started this podcast, we all listed our top 5 most wanted guests.
Of all time.
Of all time. And Brady Shue over here, he has this, we give this to all our guests, but you were on his top 5 list.
Let's go.
Of wanted guests.
Some say number 1.
Number 1, let's go. Let's go.
So we'll have him bring on.
Yes.
Classic
what
combat
number are we
flag.
on? 6?
Number 6.
Oh.
Dang. Let's go. Dang,
That's
that is heavy duty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, number 6.
Yes.
It's got the stand right down there, too. Put on a mantle.
Dang.
Yep.
Where do you that? That's
So
awesome.
he makes it. So he has a
Oh,
metal
no way.
cutting.
Yeah.
No
place,
way.
So, yeah.
Hey, I'll tell you, I've never gotten something like this from a podcast ever. So it's pretty awesome.
What would you rank this podcast on your favorite podcast you've been on?
Just straight up because I got this gift, it might be number one.
Let's go.
I never got anything. Yeah, I'm gonna go put this on my desk at work. It's pretty cool.
Sweet.
Awesome.
Number 6. All right.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much,
Yeah,
Seth.
thank
This has
you.
been great.
Thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it. So.